This story is titled, My In-Laws Stole My Wedding Fund to Pay for My Sister-in-Law's Lavish Vacation, so I canceled the wedding and cut them off. My name is Mia. I'm 30 years old, and I live in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee. Growing up, I always dreamed of a beautiful wedding, a day filled with love, laughter, and the people closest to me. When I met my fiancé, Jake, it felt like those dreams were finally within reach. Jake and I had been saving for years, cutting corners and sacrificing luxuries to afford the wedding of our dreams. What I didn't expect was that the people who were supposed to support us the most would be the ones to shatter those dreams. It all started a few months before our wedding date. Jake and I had been diligently saving, putting aside every spare dollar into a joint wedding fund. It wasn't an extravagant amount, but it was enough to cover the essentials: the venue, the caterer, my dress, and his suit. We weren't looking for anything over the top, just a day that reflected our love and hard work. Jake's parents, Tom and Diane, had always been a bit complicated. They were kind to my face, but there was always an underlying tension, especially when it came to money. Jake's younger sister, Alyssa, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. Alyssa was everything I wasn't: impulsive, reckless, and utterly spoiled. She lived a life of luxury, funded entirely by her parents, while Jake had worked for everything he had. One evening, Jake and I were sitting in our small apartment, going over the final details of the wedding budget. That's when Jake got a call from his mom. He put the phone on speaker, and I could hear Diane's voice, overly cheerful and suspiciously sweet. "Jake, honey," she began, "I have some exciting news. We surprised Alyssa with a 2-week vacation to Europe. Isn't that wonderful?" Jake raised an eyebrow, confused. "That's great, Mom. But how did you afford that? I thought you said money was tight." There was a pause. Then Diane laughed nervously. "Oh, well, we had to get a little creative. Borrow from here and there. But it's all fine. Alyssa deserves it after the tough year she's had." Something about her tone sent a chill down my spine. I glanced at Jake, and I could tell he felt it too. "Borrow from where?" he asked, his voice sharper now. "Well," Diane hesitated, "we might have used a little bit from your wedding fund. But don't worry. We'll pay it back soon." The air in the room seemed to freeze. I stared at the phone, unable to believe what I was hearing. Jake's face turned pale as he processed her words. "You what?" he said, his voice trembling. "It's not a big deal," Diane insisted. "You don't need all that money right now, and Alyssa really needed this trip. You'll get it back eventually." I couldn't hold back any longer. "Diane," I said, my voice shaking with anger, "you had no right to touch that money. It's not yours to take." There was a beat of silence before Diane responded, her tone suddenly icy. "Well, Mia, I don't see why you're so upset. You and Jake are family now, and families help each other. Alyssa needed this. You should understand that." "Understand?" I felt my blood boiling. "That money was for our wedding," I said firmly. "You stole from us, Diane." She scoffed. "Stole is such a strong word. We're just borrowing it. You'll still have your wedding. Don't be so dramatic." But I knew better. This wasn't a loan. Diane and Tom had no intention of paying us back. They had taken the money because they believed Alyssa's vacation was more important than our wedding, more important than us. Jake ended the call before things could escalate further. He sat there in stunned silence, his hands clenched into fists. "I can't believe they did this," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. In the days that followed, Jake confronted his parents multiple times, demanding they return the money. Each time they brushed him off with excuses. "We'll get it back to you soon," they'd say. "Don't be so selfish. Alyssa deserves nice things too." Their lack of remorse was infuriating. They didn't care about the stress they had caused us or the fact that our wedding plans were now in jeopardy. All they cared about was Alyssa and her luxurious European getaway. The final straw came when I saw photos of Alyssa's trip on social media. She was posting pictures of herself sipping champagne in Paris, shopping in Milan, and lounging on a yacht in Greece. Each post was like a slap in the face, a reminder of what had been stolen from us. I knew then that I couldn't go through with the wedding. Not like this. Not with people who had so little respect for us. Stay tuned for the conclusion of this story. What I did next changed everything, and I finally found the strength to take control of my life. After seeing Alyssa's vacation plastered all over social media, my frustration turned into resolve. I knew I couldn't let this go. Diane and Tom had crossed a line, and there was no coming back from it. Jake and I sat down that evening and I told him what had been weighing on my heart. "I don't think I can go through with the wedding," I said quietly. Jake looked at me, his expression filled with pain. You mean cancel it? Yes, I replied, my voice trembling. I can't stand the idea of celebrating with people who don't respect us or our hard work. Your parents don't care about us, Jake. They only care about Alyssa. I'm done pretending otherwise. Jake didn't respond right away, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. He loved his parents despite everything, but he knew I was right. If we do this, he said finally, we do it together. I won't let them ruin what we've built, Mia. I'm with you. That night, we made the decision to cancel the wedding. It wasn't easy, calling vendors, explaining the situation to friends and family, and losing deposits we had worked so hard to save for. But as difficult as it was, it also felt freeing. We were no longer bound by the expectations of people who had betrayed us. When Diane and Tom found out, they were furious. Diane called Jake, screaming about how we were overreacting and punishing the family for no reason. Tom chimed in, accusing us of being ungrateful and selfish. But Jake stood his ground. You stole from us, he said firmly. You prioritized Alyssa's vacation over our future. If you can't see how wrong that is, then we have nothing left to talk about. They tried to guilt trip him, but Jake didn't budge. For the first time, he put us first, and I couldn't have been prouder of him. As for Alyssa, she had the audacity to send me a message, accusing me of ruining the family dynamic and making things harder for everyone. I didn't bother responding. She wasn't worth my energy. With the wedding canceled, Jake and I decided to elope. We booked a simple ceremony at a beautiful spot in the mountains, just the two of us, and a kind officiant who made us feel like the most important people in the world. It wasn't the wedding we had originally planned, but it was perfect in its own way. Afterward, we used the little money we had left to take a short honeymoon. It wasn't luxurious, but it was ours, and for the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. When we returned, Jake and I made a difficult but necessary decision to cut off his parents and Alyssa entirely. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the blatant disrespect, the entitlement, and the complete lack of accountability. At first, it was hard. Diane tried to guilt us into reconciling, sending long-winded messages about how families should stick together. Tom tried to downplay what had happened, saying, "It's just money, get over it." But we stayed firm. Over time, the weight of their toxicity lifted. Jake and I focused on building a life that was truly ours, free from their manipulation. We learned to lean on each other in ways we never had before, and our relationship grew stronger because of it. Looking back, canceling the wedding was one of the best decisions we ever made. It wasn't just an act of defiance, it was a declaration of our worth. We refused to let anyone, even family, take away what we had worked so hard for. To anyone listening to this story, here's my advice. Don't let toxic people dictate your happiness. Sometimes, cutting ties is the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. Your peace, your love, and your future are worth fighting for. Thank you for listening. Have you ever had to stand up to toxic family members? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and never settle for less than you deserve.